The morning light filtered through the tall glass windows of Hamilton Industries, casting reflections on the spotless marble floors. The building gleamed like success itself, cold, perfect, and indifferent. Every morning at 5 a.m., long before the executives arrived in their luxury cars, Martha Johnson, the quiet janitor in a faded blue uniform, would push her cart down the hallways. Her shoes squeaked faintly with each step, and her humming, low and soulful, was the only sound in the vast corporate silence. For 15 years, Martha had cleaned these same floors, polished these same tables, and emptied trash bins overflowing with paper and pride. She was invisible, and she knew it. But today was different. Today, Martha's steady eyes carried a calm resolve, and her steps, though slow, were firm with purpose. As she pushed her cart into the executive floor, the secretary, Chloe, glanced up from her desk with the usual dismissive smile. "Morning, Martha. Try not to make noise near Mr. Davis's office. He's got a big meeting in an hour." Martha simply nodded. "I won't be long," she said quietly. Her voice carried warmth, the kind that seemed out of place in a building built on sharp suits and sharper egos. Mr. Davis, Gregory Davis, the CEO, was the kind of man whose presence filled a room before he even entered it. His suits were custom, his words ruthless, and his smiles rehearsed. To him, people were assets. Replaceable ones. He'd never spoken more than 3 words to Martha. Yet, as fate would have it, she was about to speak many to him. By 9 a.m., the boardroom was full. The company had been struggling quietly, whispers of layoffs and restructuring rippled through the halls. Employees feared who would be next. Gregory stood at the head of the table, flipping through slides. "We need to cut costs," he said coldly. "Starting with unnecessary staff. Janitorial services will be outsourced. It's cheaper." Laughter flickered among the executives. Numbers danced on screens. Human lives reduced to balance sheets. Outside the glass walls, Martha was polishing the floor, her back slightly hunched. She heard everything. Every cruel chuckle. Every indifferent tone. She had cleaned this room for 15 years, even on holidays, even when storms flooded the basement. She had never complained, never asked for more. But as she listened now, something inside her shifted. She straightened her back, placed the mop against the wall, and walked toward the boardroom door. Inside, the executives barely looked up as she entered. "Excuse me, Mr. Davis," Martha said softly. Gregory frowned. "Not now, Martha. We're in a meeting." "I know," she said, her voice steady. "But it concerns me. And everyone else who's worked here longer than most of you've been in this building." The room fell quiet. Gregory's jaw tightened. "I'll speak with you later." Martha stepped forward. "No, sir. You'll speak with me now." Her tone wasn't angry, it was dignified, commanding in a way no one expected. For a moment, Gregory was too stunned to reply. The janitor, of all people, interrupting him. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, aged envelope. She placed it on the table. On it, in faded ink, were the words, "Hamilton Holdings Transfer Agreement." "Do you know what this is?" she asked quietly. Gregory picked it up, irritation flickering. "Some old paperwork, I assume." She smiled faintly. "It's the ownership document for this building, and a majority of its shares." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Gregory blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact," Martha said, her voice unwavering, "that Hamilton Industries was built by my late husband, Richard Johnson. He founded this company 40 years ago. When he died, I kept his shares, quietly. I didn't want attention or pity. I wanted to watch what kind of people would run what he built." Gasps rippled through the room. Gregory's face paled. "You mean, you're—" "Yes," she interrupted gently. "The majority shareholder. And as of today, I'm reclaiming what's mine." She turned to the others, eyes calm but filled with fire. "Mr. Davis, you're relieved of your duties. Effective immediately." The room erupted in murmurs. The same executives who'd ignored her now stared like they were seeing a ghost. Gregory stammered, You can't just walk in here and—" "Oh, I can," she said, sliding another paper across the table. "And I just did." For a moment, no one moved. Gregory's voice cracked as he tried to gather his composure. "You've been a janitor here for 15 years. Why would you do that to yourself?" Martha looked at him with a soft smile. Because power isn't about being seen, Mr. Davis. It's about understanding people. About knowing who keeps the lights on, who cleans the floors, who makes sure everyone else can do their jobs. I wanted to see what kind of leader you were when you thought no one important was watching. He looked down, ashamed. She turned toward the others. I've seen every face in this building. I know who stays late to finish reports. I know who hides in their office to avoid responsibility. From today forward, this company will remember every single person matters, not just the ones with corner offices. Her words hung in the air like a quiet thunderstorm. By noon, the news had spread through every floor. Employees whispered in disbelief, "Martha owns the company." The woman who had mopped their floors for years now sat in the CEO's chair. Not out of vanity, but out of justice. When she stepped into her new office, she didn't change the nameplate. It still read, Gregory Davis, CEO. She said she'd get to that later. Her first order of business wasn't firing people, it was saving them. She reinstated the janitorial team, doubling their wages. She created an employee education fund, offering scholarships for anyone wanting to study or advance their career. She even visited the cafeteria and thanked the cooks personally. You feed them, she said, smiling. That's power too. Days turned into weeks. The company culture began to shift. People smiled more. Meetings ended with gratitude, not fear. Martha walked the halls, still in her blue uniform. She refused to give it up. It reminds me where I came from, she'd say. But not everyone was pleased. Gregory Davis, the former CEO, had become a shadow in the business world. He had spent years building his image on dominance and control, and it had all crumbled in one morning. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, he appeared at the building again. Security hesitated, but Martha told them to let him in. He entered her office quietly, hat in hand. I came to apologize, he said. I was cruel. And blind. She looked up from her desk. Sit, Mr. Davis. He did. I thought success was about power, he continued. You showed me it's about people. Martha nodded. Sometimes life humbles us so we can see the ground we've been walking over. He lowered his head. If there's any way I can make it right. She smiled kindly. Help someone who can't help you back. That's how you start. He left with tears in his eyes. Months later, Hamilton Industries became known not just for innovation, but compassion. Business magazines ran features titled, The Janitor Who Changed Corporate America. Reporters asked why she hadn't revealed her ownership earlier. Her answer was simple. Because titles don't build respect. Actions do. One morning, Martha returned to the same hallway she'd cleaned for so many years. The marble gleamed, not because it was polished, but because it carried memories of every step she'd taken. Chloe, the secretary who once dismissed her, now ran the HR department. She approached with a smile. Miss Johnson, we're hosting an employee appreciation day. We'd love for you to speak. Martha laughed softly. What would I say? Chloe's eyes glistened. Maybe just, tell them your story. That evening, in front of hundreds of employees, Martha stood at the podium. No expensive jewelry, no power suit, just the same blue uniform. I used to think cleaning floors was the smallest thing, she began. But every job, every role, has meaning. I've seen people forget that. I've seen others remember. This company was never about the building, it was about the people in it. She paused, scanning the crowd, faces that once passed her by now looking at her with admiration and gratitude. She smiled. 15 years ago, I started here as a janitor. Today, I stand here as your CEO. But I'm still the same woman who knows what it means to work with your hands and heart. So let's keep building, not just a company, but a family. Applause filled the room. As she stepped down, someone whispered, she changed everything. But Martha only smiled. She hadn't changed everything. She'd simply reminded them what had always mattered. And sometimes, that's enough to change the world.